All right. Hello and welcome to the Fairbanks Year-Round Podcast. I'm joined by Erica Moeller of the Moeller.
Yeah.
I should ask first. Of the Roaming Root Cellar, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you
Perfect,
did. Thank
perfect. So I always like to start, what brought you to Fairbanks? Were you born here? Were you?
I was not born here. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I was stationed up here at the military. I was a logistics officer in the Army.
Yeah.
And I went to my career course in Richmond, Virginia. And when they were asking me about where I wanted to go and kind of ranking my preferences throughout that course, all of the options were like really hot places, you know, like Fort Sill, Oklahoma, Fort Benning, Georgia. And it was not my flavor. So I requested Fort Wainwright, and the response from my branch manager was, You'd go there? So I moved up here in 2013, still here.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, there's so many. I'm surprised that he would even say that, though. I guess you would know better than me, but it seems like kind of a split. Some people are forced up here and they hate every minute of it.
Yes.
Other people are like, please let me get back, or let me get there for the first time.
Right.
And it's like on their wish list.
There's no in between.
Yeah. That's how it is for everyone who lives here.
Yes.
You gotta
Exactly.
really like
Exactly.
it. So that's wonderful. So you end up staying.
I did.
So that brings us into the Roaming Root. So where did the name come from?
The name actually came from my sister had a hydroponics farm in Chicago called Off the Root. My husband and I wanted to start a farm up here, so we called it the Frozen Root.
Yeah.
And then when we realized that the financial implications of starting a farm meant that we would never quit our day jobs, we would be working 2 full-time jobs, like, you know, in perpetuity. We kind of pivoted to collaborating with other small businesses and selling their things. And we did it out of a bus. So it was the Roaming Root.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So the farming, has that always been something that you wanted to do? Was that like a new thing you discovered? Or?
Yeah, it's not really. It's newish. I started to really care about local food while I was stationed in Germany. Okay. They have so the German farmers markets there, they will actually soft boil eggs, like pre-soft boil them and then sell them soft boiled. And they differentiate those from raw eggs by painting them, and they paint them like every color of the rainbow. And it's this weird little thing that I just absolutely adored.
Yeah.
Because like nothing made me happier than waking up in the morning and being like, do I want the pink egg or the green egg for breakfast today? So that kind of developed my love for local food. And then moving back to the States, and especially moving up here, combining like my skill sets in logistics, it became more of a not if we're going to do it, but how are we going to do it? Because food security is such a big issue up here.
Right. So the Frozen Root was your foray into like, hey, maybe we'll do this for an income, or was it that more of a hobby? It was...
No. Like my husband has a very different take on this. I wanted to do it like all in, both feet off the deep end. Yeah. This is what we're going to do. He was reluctantly supportive at first because he's more of a realist. I'm definitely more of the dreamer between the two of us.
Well, I think you need both. And I've talked with my wife a lot about this because she can feel like she's holding me back, but I was like, it's really good because anything that I do ever, and I've said this a million times, like I get a hobby, I'm going to be the best thing ever. Yeah. Like in the 2 days, I'm like, this is going to be me for the rest of my life now. And she's like, well, maybe you should do it for a month and see if you still like it.
Same.
I'm like, all right, Mom.
Right.
Yeah. So you went for the Frozen Root. So when you did that, did you really get going on that yet, or was it like more a thought before you pivoted?
We spent one summer farming with the Frozen Root. We wanted to start a chicken farm because at the time there's a chicken farm in Delta now that does a really good job of supplying the stores up here that want, you know, a local source.
Yeah.
But so at the time there were no farms that did meat chickens. So we were like, well, we're going to do that. That, you know, we've had chickens for a couple years now. We've done meat birds in small quantities for ourselves. It's going to be easy to scale it up, right?
Right.
So in one summer, we butchered by hand 200 chickens, and we were just like, never again.
Yeah. I was listening
We'll eat it prepackaged. Thank you.
I was listening to a fella. That's horrible. I'm not gonna remember where he's at or anything, but he's very kind of switched his farm from like a mono-agricultural to like everything, you know, and it revitalizes the land, and it's like this wonderful 100%. Ecological situation. But he did talk about chickens. He's like, back in the day, if you went to go get chicken, it was more expensive than beef. It was more expensive than,
that makes sense.
Yeah, which was kind of interesting. Like chickens are the hardest to make a profit on now because the mass, way they grow it is so cheap. He's like, so it's made it so cheap. So to like, do it in a small scale is kind of pretty untenable in a lot of cases.
I mean, we retail our frozen meat birds for $8.50 a pound, which is like significantly more expensive than what you would get at the box stores.
Right.
But, and I might be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. The majority of like large corporate chicken farms in the US are subsidized. And that's why they can sell them so cheaply.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's one of those, I think chickens, and I've never been like a full-on farmer, but they are the easiest of anything. Like they're easier than having a dog, I feel like. Yeah. And it could just be me. Like I love having chickens, and you get eggs. Sorry, I got something in my eye.
Oh, that's
but anyways, what I did want to talk about was how it used to be, not that, I don't know, having your own farm and stuff, you have to kind of be independently wealthy to do that.
You really do.
Yeah. So I really want to, we're moving more and more towards that. And it's in the idea of like, hey, this is not going to be less work for us. Like less work for me is to sell one more house and just buy groceries. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
And that's a great part of having community and, being able to, not everybody has to farm anymore or anything. So there's like something good to that, but it's also like, we have evenings and we enjoy doing the thing. But yeah, like if I wanted to go all in, we've thought about it and do a frozen root of our own. It's like, I'd kind of want to have all my income like settled,
You really do. Yeah. I mean,
the
cost of land alone, and this is actually why this is one of the driving factors behind starting the Roaming Root, was because we spent that one summer farming, and in going to farmers markets, we started talking to other farmers and things like that. And I realized a couple of things. Most of our small farms up here, the farmers are working full-time jobs. They're working 9 to 5, just like, you would have been. And then they're doing that on the weekend. Like for me, I had a really sweet job with DOD, as a DOD civilian at the time, but I was literally burning vacation time to leave work early and go sit at this farmer's market where I was barely breaking even.
Yeah.
So it's, and the cost of land up here is astronomical, especially if you want like a south-facing slope, where you're not in the bogs, where it's going to have like even remotely decent soil.
I was surprised.
It's really unachievable.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I moved up here. So we lived here before, but I was on a real estate, I was in high school and stuff, so I didn't really think about it. And then I moved away, and down in Arkansas, I sold a lot of farmland. Cool. And I come up here, and I'm like, I'll probably do some of that again.
Right. Nope.
And there's, and I understand like maybe the lack of farm, but just like large tracts of land, unless it's not connected to a road system.
Totally.
Those are out there.
Yeah.
But there is
But then how do you meet your market?
Oh yeah. No, you're not farming. You're not you can, but like something that's already hard. It's like, okay, now remove your truck from there. It's like, you're going to have to 4-wheeler and snow machine everything in. It's like, that's not going to happen. So from that, you kind of realize, at least for your situation, what you wanted to do, probably not tenable as far as an income source.
Yeah.
So you got the Roaming Root, and it sounds like this is partly for you, obviously, but also like, hey, this can be a solution for these farms.
That's exactly what it became.
Awesome.
A couple of the farmers that I spoke with were growing like substantial quantities of food, but there was nowhere they could sell them. So at the end of the farmer market season, they were dumping it all at the food bank. I mean, like hundreds to thousands of pounds of food.
That's crazy.
And it's just like, well,
good
that's
for the food bank. But
it's super good for our community, but it doesn't make farming, like in a state where we are literally the end of the road, or a town where we're the end of the road, like it doesn't make farming a really attractive endeavor if you are going to have to end up like donating, most of your produce.
Yeah.
So when we realized that, that's when we were like, okay, this is the path we're going to take.
Okay.
We're going to just create an outlet for sales for farmers. And we've maintained that we work with some of the larger, and, obviously the podcast can't see this, but there's air quotes around that because our largest farms are like not even considered micro farms in the rest of the US.
Right.
But we work with some larger farms that can consistently supply us. But we also, like, if people last year I had one guy who had, like 75 pounds of cabbages that he grew. Never met him before, haven't seen him since. And we bought him off of him because he was like, hey, this is a one-time thing. Like, I don't have anything else to do with them. Do you want them? And we took them.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's our goal.
So you're kind of like, and you can say, no, you're an idiot, Blake, but it feels like kind of like just a permanent farmer's market that of course they're not having to sit at either. So it's that's very different, but
I try to steer clear of that term because it's a little disingenuous. Like I don't actually make or create anything in the store.
Right.
But the idea behind it is absolutely the same.
Yeah, but you're the marketplace for all these people
Exactly.
to come together.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that guy, for him in particular, it's like people want cabbage, but people want more than just cabbage,
Right.
you know. But if he just wants to
Exactly.
grow cabbage or whatever it may be. So when did you start doing it in a van? You said, or a bus, or what?
I started in the bus. I started on February 29th of 2020.
Oh, ominous.
So yeah, exactly. So that was our first day open. I think we did a pop-up at Goldie's, and then like the next weekend, I was still working full time at the time.
Yeah.
So we would like go to Tracks, Hoodoo, you know, things like that, and do little pop-ups. We were at Black Spruce, and just do little pop-ups around town. We had to shut down pretty quick for COVID.
It sucks.
And it was okay, actually. I was still employed full time, and the fact that we didn't have any rent to pay was like our big saving grace.
That's sweet.
Those two things together saved us.
Super low overhead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I delivered, like I still had all this inventory, so I would deliver to people's homes just using my Jeep. Yeah. So yeah, we did that until we could reopen, and then we reopened in the bus, and then the thing broke down on me with such regularity that we
what's the bus?
The bus was that was what we started in.
I mean, what kind of like
it was
vehicles?
a 1976 Bluebird International, 23 feet long.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it started off on the North Slope. I've actually managed to find like 3 previous owners.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
It started off on the North Slope, like hauling the workers to and from their barracks and whatever. And then somehow made its way to Fairbanks and
in the 70s too. So it's that's kind of cool, like Gold Rush or Oil
is,
Rush, I guess you'd say. But awesome.
I think right now it's actually down in North Pole. I think it's changed hands 2 more times.
You
since
didn't
I've
keep
had
the
it.
bus? Oh,
no, I did not keep the bus.
Didn't have
we
enough
did not part on good terms.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I think it's I think someone's using it as a camper or aspires to use it as a camper.
Yeah.
Down in North Pole.
So you now are in a new location.
Yes.
When did you get to this spot you're at now?
So we are now at 1651 College Road. We're in the Old Aurora Animal Clinic. And we moved in there a month and 3 days ago.
Okay. I thought it was pretty recent. Did you have another permanent location before that?
We did. Yeah. We were in the Sheena Pump Plaza.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, we spent, 3 years there, just building a solid base, putting some systems in place, expanding our inventory.
Sweet.
And then our lease was up in February, so the timing worked out really well. But I was kind of keeping an eye for a place that's a little more centrally located, and sent out a survey to our customers, like asking how they'd feel if we moved over by Hungry Robot. And people had some very strong feelings about the old Stees.
Oh, really? Yeah, they don't like that.
Especially that side of town.
Yeah.
But Barb, the owner of the Aurora Animal Clinic, emailed me and she was like, "Hey, our building's going to be hitting the market."
Sweet. So did you buy the building, or
I did?
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. I talk with a business guy about once a week. We always meet up, and he owned Chuck. Thank you. Advanced printing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, owning the building was such a lifesaver because you're paying yourself rent, or depending how you're doing your business, of course. And so he's like, it was just, you could make it through lean time so much more easily than if you have, especially like commercial rent here anywhere probably is expensive.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah. We're paying, once we pay down the renovation, we'll be paying the same per square foot just for the mortgage as we would have, it'll be roughly, the same per square foot as when we rented, but we've got more than, we've got a lot more space and
your price sticks there, whereas rent keeps going up, so the longer you're in it, the better it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And quite frankly, as a small business owner, like that's my retirement plan.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
Small businesses aren't known for their 401ks,
It's hard to do that. So when you went from the bus to a permanent location with more overhead, what was the stress like there? Was it a pretty smooth transition, or?
It was chaotic. We moved in very quickly because, the bus was breaking down, like I said, like on a very regular basis. So we were just like, we need a place.
Right.
So we kind of just threw everything in there, got it up and going, and then had to kind of settle in after that. We didn't give ourselves a lot of transition time. But the increased overhead, it was scary at first, but honestly, looking at what I would have had to do for the bus in the winter, especially, is either drive it back to my house or find a place in town to park it, because we've got a steep driveway. So find a place in town to park it, haul everything out of it at night, because we had refrigerators, we had stuff that couldn't freeze, haul it back in the day, or just pay more money and not have to do any of that. So it was scary, but it was a no-brainer.
You were not working at that. When
That's
you were
right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I left my day job in, I think, like May of 2020.
Okay.
So basically right around the time we reopened after COVID was, they sent us home. And when they called us back to the office, that's when I put in my notice.
I gotcha.
Basically.
And so how long were you in the bus then? Just the one summer?
Only like 3 months.
Okay. All right.
So
that's a cool start though.
Yeah, thanks. It was.
Yeah, it's hard. We just had, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago, we had the Bun on the Run gal, if you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was like, why aren't you open in the winter? She's like, because it's an old trailer that we're going to freeze to death in. It doesn't really work that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's got some cool stuff coming up too, though. I think she's
opening up her new location. Yep. So yeah, you guys were kind of almost back to back, where I remember calling you guys to get on the podcast and you're like, I'm actually going to be moving into a new location. I need some time. And she was like, I'm actually starting a new location. So I was like, hey,
I need to go now.
Yeah, both on College Road there.
Very cool.
Yeah, no, it's
Right on.
awesome. So moving to the new, bigger building, and that is, was that, like you're saying, like financially, was it a bit of a lateral move, or was this another like, hey, we're now stepping up another notch here?
No, it was definitely the
one you're in
building.
now. I'm sorry. Yep.
It was definitely a step up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is significantly more overhead. Like I said, per square foot, it's roughly the same, but it's double the square footage.
Right. Way bigger.
And then we also have, we've never had to pay for like building maintenance before and plowing driveways and things like that. So it is a big step up, but the community has just from day one, the community has been so receptive of this business.
Yeah.
That I'm not worried about it.
Good. Well, you shouldn't be, because it doesn't help anyways.
Right.
If you're going down, you're going down anyway. No.
Exactly.
So I historically have people on here, and I obviously never do anything in the community. So Shelby's like, we have to go to the Roaming Root before. So we did stop by on the weekend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, the first thing is when you open the door into the little Arctic entry, the smell is so great. And
Thank you.
I had to say it quick. The smell, pause.
Right. Yeah.
it's like, we're home, baby. And it was busy. Yeah, it was busy. I was like, I love seeing places that are busy. It's horrible when you go to like some restaurant at lunchtime or whatever, and it's like
you're
empty,
like the
and you're
only
like,
one. Yeah.
I know, I'm like, oh man,
don't talk too loud.
I know, I feel bad for you. So no, it's always good to see.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful for so the curation. I want to talk about that.
Sure.
You are working with a bunch of locals, obviously.
Yep.
So everything in there is local.
It is,
as far as I can tell. Cool. How are you curating what makes it in, what doesn't? Is it such a small community that you don't have to choose too much? Like
we're definitely at the point now, especially with this expansion, where we've had more people reach out to us than we can promise to work with.
Right.
So, which is a good problem to have, but it's still like the most awful part of my job is, obviously telling people, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that we look for is, first of all, like whether we have anything in the store that's already like it. I try not to compete, a little bit of variety is good. A little bit of competition is good, but we don't want to flood the market with any like one type of item.
Right.
So, keeping that diversity is important.
Right.
We also, like, I've had people reach out to me that are from, like Yukon territory in Canada. And so we do stick really closely to that Alaska boundary.
Yeah.
So we've told people no for that in the past. Like folks that, there's this one woman who makes the coolest earrings using fish ear bones.
Oh.
Yeah, they're super cool.
Operculum, is that right?
I would. Okay.
People are going to be really impressed with me. I just got some points there. That's awesome, though.
Yeah, but like she lives in California like 10, 11 months out of the year, and then comes up here and fishes.
Yeah.
So they're sourced from Alaska, but like she doesn't live here, so that's kind of,
Yeah.
And then, space is a big issue. The mental load, like, do I just have the mental capacity to bring on new vendors at the time? Like, those are all things that kind of go into whether we can expand or not.
So do you do anything online?
We do,
selling?
yeah.
Okay.
We have an online shop. It's got a smaller percentage on there than what we have in store. Just because we have so many unique, one-off items that in order to take a picture of every single item and get it posted it's a little challenging. But people can check that out at www.roamingrootak.com.
And we'll have all this in the description as well,
Perfect.
too. But
Thank you.
And
we ship, nationally, and we ship abroad to APOs.
Well, I was just thinking for things like that gal, like that'd be a pretty sweet online option or something where it's like, we don't maybe have it right in the store there, but
That's actually a really good point.
See there?
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Operculum. Don't forget that either. I'm really stacking this up.
I've got that. I'm logging.
I could also be wrong. So I always say whatever we say in here is true, so we just make up statistics, everything, it's all
say
fine.
Say it with enough confidence.
Yeah. So the styling, so beyond the items you have in there, and again, it's, I think I always say this. So Shelby, my wife, I keep bringing her up, just had a birthday, and I was like, oh, what can I do that's a little bit different? Yep, she's 48. I'm just joking.
Don't look at David.
So what can we do a little different beyond? So I thought, all right, a few items, and one of them is I got a gift card to a shop to go shop at.
Very
and
cool.
we go in there, and it was like, kind of like just didn't have the things that, it was kind of, and I was like, man, and I had not been to the Roaming Root yet. So we go there, and I was like, we were literally saying, I was like, I should have freaking got a gift card here. She's like, I just want all the things. So you do great with that, of finding like, hey, these are like awesome. And again, we love local, but the styling itself too is another thing. Because you go into local places sometimes, and I'm not saying the shop we went to, but there's local, like whatever, gift shops on the side of the road are like probably the worst case of this.
Right.
Where you're like, oh my God, like it's this, the styling's bad. They have a bunch of made in China stuff or whatever. And you're just like, oh, this kind of
it's
sucks.
just like kind of like stacked in places. Yeah.
So where did that come from? Where did it come from?
My staff, mostly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I've got some wild, like I was definitely, excuse me.
That's all right.
I was definitely the kind of person that would just like stack stuff on shelves. And my staff they're insanely creative. Like I've got a couple people especially that just have such a good eye for placing things together and just branding it and like you said, styling it. And so they've taught me a lot over the years, but I really just let them do it.
That's awesome.
So, and I have a new store manager that just started working with us here in this new spot. And she's worked in my God, I'm so sorry. She's worked in retail for I think I want to say like 20 or 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So she's learned quite a bit and taught us quite a bit. But yeah, so it's really just, it's pulled from a lot of different people that aren't me.
No, that's good. That's good. Cause I have similar issues where like, and I don't have a storefront or anything like that, but yeah, I would, if it was up to me, like styling wise, I have a bookshelf behind here. I would just stack everything onto one shelf cause it fits, or something. Right. It's like the rest are
exactly,
empty.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, maybe you should put a picture on this side here and kind of balance things out. But whatever that like gene is or thing, like I just really don't have it. Like I'm eyeballing things and I'm like, can't tell.
Right.
don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah.
I'm just pretending at this point. So with the staff, so it was just you and your husband for, I guess, some amount of time, or like how long before you started hiring?
Actually, so he, when I told him that I was going to quit my GS job and sell lettuce out of a bus, he was like,
I'm going to pick up extra shifts.
Yeah, basically. He was like, all right, well, I'm going to keep my day job. Just like, if you need help, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
But also, this is going to be your thing and I've got my thing. And if yours goes south, then we still have my thing.
Right.
He's always been a huge, like I said, he's been a huge supporter and he's really helped any of like the bus maintenance. He was on helping me load and unload, things like that. But it's only been within the last 6 months or so, I think, that he's really like, he now works at the store part-time, like helping with the management.
Oh,
and
he finally got the job.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe you can interview next spring and we'll see how you do that.
Exactly. So yeah, he's taken a more active role now, which is awesome. Like I love working with him every day. It's we're one of those folks that can get away with doing that. But yeah, so he and I, and then our manager, and then we've got we've got one other full-time person and a handful of part-time folks.
Seems like hiring is a lot of businesses' like biggest issue.
Yeah.
What has it been like for you? Has it been something you've kind of figured out pretty well and it's not caused problems for you? Is it, what did that look like?
I mean, we've had our struggles just like, just like any store or any place. But I would say the majority of my staff has been with me for, I think the longest person that I've had has been with me for like 3 years.
Yeah. That's almost the lifetime of the business.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So, to go back to your original question though, it was just me in the bus and then, for a little bit in the store, and then I started hiring folks to bring on.
Right.
But so Jules been with me for 3 years since day one. Bess and Meisha have been with me for a couple of years now. And I think, I do my absolute best to obviously take care of them, but to also give them buy-in.
Yeah.
Like give them their areas of responsibility that like I don't really touch. And I think that helps kind of keep them around.
Having some ownership of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, which you can certainly give out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
between the military especially is like employee plus, so between that and then coming to, is this the first business that you've owned?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. if you don't count the frozen root farm, which I don't.
Yeah, let's just skim over that. That wasn't long enough.
Right.
So, but
yes, it is.
Yeah, doing this full time, nothing else. What is your thoughts between the two? Like, is this something you're like recommend?
It's an individual decision. Mm-hmm. I'm really sorry.
You're okay.
I always tell people that the best decision I ever made was joining the Army, and the second best decision I ever made was leaving. And not everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, some people are in for life. Some people love it. It was, it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for the benefits that I got from it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it was not the best fit for me. Mm-hmm. Starting the business, being able to have just unlimited creative outlets.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
Being able to just let that dreamer part of my brain like run full force. And thankfully I have people around me that pull me back in when I need it. Like being able to do that and not be constrained by doctrine or rules and regulations, things like that has been.
Did the military job have a little bit of that, or
just a little bit, just a touch?
So how long were you in the military for?
I was in for 7 years.
7 years, yeah. So it's hard to, and I see how you're saying it too. Is it's hard to look back and say like, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
Like even though, but it's just like different times of your life. Like you probably wouldn't be here in Fairbanks if it wasn't for that. Like
I absolutely
so many
wouldn't
things,
be.
and all the things you learn from just anything you do in life. I've been more and more, the older I get, there's some good Bible scripture about it and I need to like have it somewhere, but it's like basically all things for the good. Like anything that happens in your life, like even if it feels negative in the moment, there's so much good that can be garnered from each thing. So it's a big perspective switch. So you go full-time business here, you have all these creative outlets. Do you ever feel like overwhelmed with the amount of choice that you could have? Or is it things that you always kind of know which direction you want to go?
When I start to feel overwhelmed about the number of options or choices that I have, that's when I just take a step back. Right. And like, I've gotten really good over the years of like, okay, I think I want to do this, but I'm not positive. So I'm not going to think about it for 2 or 3 days. And honestly, the answer just kind of, you put everything into a sieve and the answers just kind of shake themselves out. Is how I think of it. And that's been kind of a helpful strategy to get rid of those feelings of overwhelm and to just kind of keep the business on a path that makes sense for me, for my husband, for the business itself and our employees. And I think has...
And this is a young business still, of course.
4 years. Yeah.
As you're going forward and you've changed from a bus, you've changed locations a few times. You just spoke about this, keeping the business like what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Like how do you, and I know a lot of it is like you at the beginning, but now you have employees that are like you're saying, they're making the styling. So a little bit of it becomes its own entity in a way.
100%.
So how are you finding do you have like a set value list or something where you, again, these decisions, you have to make little minor things every day.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we've got, our core values as a business that are, to me, they are non-negotiable. And that is the first and foremost that we support Alaska grown and Alaska grown and made. And that may have to expand just for the sake of pure logistics. Like if our demand grows so high that there aren't enough growers in the area to keep food on the shelves, then what we may have to do is pivot to Alaska sourced. There's a couple of companies that sell produce that are from out of state, but they're Alaskan small businesses.
Right.
So like maybe we have to bend our core values, still keeping the essence of it, like keeping money in the state.
Right.
But opening up some other avenues for product for us.
Yeah. Well, instead of like seeing it as bending the core root, is like you look, hey, let's go deeper. Like, why do we have this core value?
Sure.
It's to support Alaska. It's like,
it
okay,
is, exactly.
So why are we leaving money on the table for Alaska?
Exactly.
Yeah. When you could have at least its source where they're not going to go, wherever Walmart or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's not bending it. It's, just diving a little bit deeper and keeping more money in state.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. And then the second one is building community. Like we are here and we do that through having like pop-ups. We have a backyard now. So we want to do little makers markets in the summer.
Oh, fun.
The master gardeners are talking about doing classes there. Glassroots Alaska, we've reached out to them to see if they want to do demos back there, things like that. So, and we don't charge anything for those. Like it's just, we are providing opportunities for different vendors and organizations to meet their customer base.
Yeah.
And, so.
Yeah, super helpful. Like that's kind of what and that's a lot of what this podcast is for me as well, is like bringing community to me, which is great, but also so people can see all these awesome things that are happening in the community. Because you hear all the time, and I know I've brought this up before, but there's nothing to do in Alaska. And it's like, you are insane. Like, I don't understand. And not that like going to the Roaming Root is maybe like a thing to do, like going to amusement parks.
Sure,
I'm not saying
right.
that, but there's like, you are having these events, there's all these things are happening. Like there's like thousands of human beings that are doing things.
Totally.
And again, and I get some people, this is just not the area for you. I get that.
Right.
But I like,
and that's okay.
Yeah. Like in a factual way, but I'm also like, it's got everything. You have cold weather, you have mountains, you have flats.
You have an ocean. It's only 8 hours away.
I know. It's everything you could ever want. But no, so that's really interesting to be able to bring that community together. But it's also, and maybe I'm wrong about this, it felt like back in the day, community was necessary. And I'm talking maybe hundreds of years ago or even 100 years ago, where you, again, like, you had to work together because you were a farmer and you needed beef or whatever. And, and it's all the bartering and different things like that. And then now, especially with the internet and everything, I feel like the hope of the internet was connection, and it's like kind of not done that in a lot of ways, and we're talking over what's going to be a podcast on the internet, but it's in the hopes of being like, hey, this is something that's hyper local. Like, we're not talking about even Anchorage. We're talking like, this is like happening right here. But able to, I don't know. It's almost like we've forgotten how to do it. Like, or I'm pretty trash at it myself, where I just like, how do I integrate myself into the community where I'm not just like benefiting from all the things of the community, but I'm benefiting it as well. Yeah. And again, that's part of this podcast, like in hopes of like being able to bring more businesses together and like, oh, hey, you need this, here's the, in a very similar method. So it's really awesome for you to do. Yeah. Thanks. Awesome. So when you started the Frozen Root, when you started doing the Roaming Root, when was the ticking point of like, hey, I'm going to stay here?
It was long before that. When I got out of the Army, I was thinking about, I kind of had two options, and I was either going to drop everything, go through hike the AT, just kind of like lick my post-Army wounds, take a knee. Any veterans out there will recognize that saying. And just take care of myself for 6 months, kind of go off the grid, and then settle down. My mom lives in North Carolina, so I was like, well, maybe I'll move to North Carolina and I'll try to like get a job with UPS or something like that. I could do that, or I could stay here, get a degree in wildlife biology. So I used my GI Bill. I wanted to be a wildlife biologist until the day I didn't.
I know the feeling.
And I was like, well, maybe, I could go to Colorado State. I was looking at all these different schools for it. And I was like, I'm already here. Like, do I really want to move again? I could start a full semester early. Like, I'm already, I was, I think 30 when I decided to go back to school. So it's like, I'm already a non-traditional student. Like, do I really want to be getting entry-level jobs when I'm like 35? So it kind of just, from a practicality standpoint, made sense to live here. Also, like, I was in a dry cabin. I was like, well, I'm not going to get rent any cheaper than this. So, if I'm like taking this major pay cut, should probably consider cost of living. So then I decided to stay. Shortly after that, I met my husband, and we were together for, I think, 3 or 4 years before we started the farm.
I've got a buddy who wants to do the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Very much so. Like, he loves it. He's read, I don't know how many books about it. We were just talking about it, so I just kind of smiled when he said that. But what, is that a military thing? Like, that you guys all talk about a little bit or something? Like,
I think we're just all gluttons for punishment at some, to some degree.
And type 2 fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we'll see where he goes with that. But,
very cool.
So if somebody was wanting to start a business, we'll say even specifically in Fairbanks, what were some key things that you learned, especially in the startup phase? And you could say you're still there. I mean, 4 years is a good long time though. That you'd be like, hey, do these things. Like, you were living cheap. It sounds like, for one, you started with a little overhead with a bus that broke down every day. But like, what were some of the things that you think would make someone, or give them a better chance of being successful?
Sure. I don't think this is not like concrete advice, but I think being able to be flexible, having flexibility in your plan, having flexibility in your life, whether that, like I said, we pivoted our business model 3 times or so. And I think being able to just have the ability to be flexible is really what saved us. So if you can build flexibility into your plan, I think that'll go a long way towards because starting a business is really hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes an insane amount of time. It takes a lot of money. So if you can be flexible, give yourself some grace. It's not going to maybe look the way you want it to right out the gate, things like that.
Right.
I think that's kind of key.
Yeah. And again, that's kind of part of the being like having low bills too. I've noticed
Exactly.
a lot. We always talked about as we were going through life, and I didn't always make as much as I make now. But we didn't do debt. We stayed out of debt, and it made us so flexible and able to pivot very quickly. And we would move to different states. And not saying that was a good financial move, but we had the ability to do so.
Right.
Whereas if we were saddled with like 3 car loans and a mortgage that was way too high for what we could afford or things like that, you can't do those things.
100%.
So people want to start these businesses, and it's like, well, hey, listen, if this business doesn't work and you're not profitable in like 3 months, you're going down. It's like that's probably a bad place to be starting from, to have that. And the other thing is, you're obviously every time you start, you're going to be a small business almost always, unless you just really blow up.
Right.
So you're a small business, and that's one of our biggest benefits is the ability to pivot. If Walmart wants to make a sweeping change in all their locations, it's a huge nightmare, and it's like it's a big thing, and they do it, but it's like, hey, you want to make a sweeping change in your business, you can do it probably tomorrow or within a month, and it gives you the benefit. I always hate, and I bring this up, I always hate when people are trying to compete with the bigger version of themselves. Yeah. And it's like you can't compete with them in that way. Totally. Like the Roaming Root, and I keep saying Walmart, but like a grocery store, or you've got books or a bookstore or something. If you try to be like Barnes and Noble or this or that,
or like Fred's or Safeway, there's no way.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you know what you're offering, and it's very different than it's not just the cabbage, obviously, that you're offering. It's everything that goes behind it, keeping the money in state, doing all the things, like you're saying, your core values that give it that extra bump. Yep. All right, cool. Thanks. Well, anything else you want to talk about?
I really appreciate you having me on.
Yes.
I actually was looking through your list of podcasts and recognized a lot of people. Some of whom, so we just started carrying Olivia Dowling's magazine, the Golden Heart magazine that she's putting out quarterly.
Oh. I think really I saw that there. Is that? Yep. Do you have it there now? Okay. Yep. I was like, this is a cool magazine. This is one I actually would want. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was her. All right, it's awesome. It totally is. I'll let her know.
And like Lizzie has been a huge supporter of the business. And I love what she does for the community. Like she's such a driving force. And also like MasterChef is super cool.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome.
And then actually Garrett Hartley is the one that renovated our building.
I was just wrestling with him.
Oh,
last night, and about broke my neck, but that's okay. No, I'm just joking. So we're gonna have him back on. Actually, yeah, he's a super awesome guy. Yeah. So
he did a great job. Every time I walk into that building, I just smile.
Yeah, no, it is really awesome. If somebody is listening and you've not been in there yet, such as myself, like 4 days ago, it's so nice in there. Like even just like walking around, it's like everything, and it's nice, and it's going to be for some people won't feel this way, I'm sure, but the right person is like, I want to buy everything in there. Like I want this print on my wall. I want to swap this thing out. I want to do this. So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for having us on. And if anyone wants to learn more about us, our social handles on Instagram and Facebook are the Roaming Root Cellar. And TikTok is Roaming Root Cellar. Drop the. And then our website again is www.roamingrootak.com.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more content from AK Blake, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the handles AK Blake. Or if you want to listen to more podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, it's there, Fairbanks, year-round. You may or may not know, I am a local real estate agent here in Fairbanks with the Summit Realty Group. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to move to the area, you already live in the area, or you're looking to invest further into real estate in the area, you can reach me. Probably the best will be either my website, akblake.com, my email, blake@akblake.com, or my phone number is probably the fastest, 907-651-8356. You can call or text. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.